Recording is started, so I will give a word to Mr. Attila Toth.
Thank you, Mario. And I have the pleasure to moderate this evening, this meeting, really. The goal of the meeting, objectives of our meeting are summarized in 3 points. The first is what are the challenges of COVID-19 as not only as a pandemic, but as a milestone, a warning milestone for a change from EU different perspectives. Second, new solutions and governments to cope with these challenges. We need them. And third, at the end, what are our capabilities to implement the changes? Are we ready or not? So I am pleased to discuss these themes with my invited distinguished prime guests. I will introduce them soon. But concerning the formalities, the format of the meeting is to share the knowledge in a professional way and on the level of we call it Vox Populi. This is the slogan of our Teledom online meetings. And I am equipped with my team. Mario and Dominic are the technical moderators. You can raise them questions in the chat window. And Stefania is the gatekeeper. She is the Teledom online help desk. You can contact her on our website if you have some problems to get in or other problems with the quality. So that's all to the introduction. And now this is my best point to introduce our guests. As guests, first of all, as I mentioned, we have 4 guests. First of all, Mrs. Albana Brioni, a seasoned team leader, change synergizer, and if I can characterize that, taking the eagle to flight, she will present us her concept of change crowdsourcing. And anyway, Albana is a frequent keynote speaker of TEDx events. Louis Lapidaire, founder and managing director of United Academics. This organization develops solutions which are open and open access and free. His slogan and his mission, maybe Louis, you agree, connect science and society.
I fully agree. Thank you for the introduction.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I made my best. And I will ask you how nowadays the science can participate in the crisis and how the academic publications are following our life. Roland Strauss, hello Roland, is a thought team leader on the future of innovation of Europe. He is really an organizer and living moderator around the European Parliament, and of course director of the Knowledge of Innovation, which is the intergroup at the European Parliament with the mission to advise the Parliament, the European Parliament, on innovation policies. And every year we can see Roland as the organizer of European Innovation Summits. Last but not least, Robert Fischer. Am I right, Robert? Are you here? Right? Did you arrive?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, hello.
Hi,
hello,
hi.
Robert. Robert. So Robert Fischer is an EU policy analyst and strategist with 25 years international and EU. Hello, somebody. Inter-institutional experience, a collaborative economy, study to assess current state of EU collaborative economy. So he is also an expert of EU in several policy domains. And from this point of view, I'm glad that we have Robert on board today. So, again, welcome our distinguished guests. And now I go back to straight to the program. The program has 3 sections. The first section is about our experience. And this experience has subtopics, of course. Then, based on the experience, how we should restart, I called it restart roadmap. So how we will reach our situation, what we have before, or even better. Maybe I'm very optimistic. And the third one is the answer to the question, are we ready for the change on EU level? So that's all, the main skeleton. And now let's go to the topics, subtopics. Please, you can interrupt me anytime. We are open meeting. And if you want to prepare, put Mario on the chat window, your question, and then Mario will synchronize it, your question, when we arrive to a subject what is relevant to your question. So our EU and Slovakia experience, because this is the 3rd COVID meeting, we had 2 meetings, and please read the meeting records from these 2 meetings. We are gathering here our experience from Slovakia on not only on business level, but social level and all other aspects. Now, today, we will enrich our repository by EU experience, thanks to our guests. But before we go there and our guests prepare to answer to these 2 questions, I will drive your attention to Gallup report. They're saying what we have to do. There's 3 things, and the manager must taking this as a shock. I'm not very happy of this, but okay. I hope we give better and more authentic question. But it is Gallup, so this is a respected organization. We have to read. And what is important, he says, amidst of the COVID-19. So Gallup says the COVID-19 will be a permanent process, up and down process, but never mind. Let us continue. So, my dear guests, question, I don't know which, maybe we start in the sequence of countries. What your change in your lifestyle and maybe situation in your home countries, very briefly. As a warming up, please go ahead. So Netherlands, Louis, please. Hello. We don't have Louis.
Well, I could say something about Luxembourg.
Very good. Please go ahead.
Okay. Well, I live in Luxembourg. I'm Dutch, but I live in Luxembourg, and well, I'm very much used to teleworking, but you see a big shift for people who are not used to it. I guess it's everywhere. But what I really see, and Luxembourg, of course, a fortunate country. We have very high bandwidth access for basically everyone. People are well equipped. It's a rich country. But
Yeah.
where you see a big difference is in the schooling, and I see it with my son. And there you see the weaknesses in the system. Everything is there. They all have Microsoft 365 accounts, but especially the skills with the teachers is not very well developed. So it is one of the weaknesses that is really very heavily demonstrated. Some do their best, some are up to scratch, but the majority does not know how to use these tools technically, but also functionally. So I think there's a big lesson to be learned.
Thank you, Robert. And the general situation, so business is already as usual in Luxembourg, or still there are some limitations?
Mike, put your
I'm on. I was replying to a call.
put your mic on.
My phone, my mic is on, I think.
No,
Yes,
Robert is still speaking, but his mic is not on.
So I ask Louis,
Sorry,
please
sorry.
go ahead. Netherlands.
Yes. Well, it is. I think for me in the Netherlands, as it is for most in Europe, we are working from home. All the venues are closed, and as Robert already said, the people are trying to do all kind of things, including education from home. Indeed, the majority of the teachers seem to be lacking in technical skills, but I think that they will be able to get on to speed. At least I hope so. And one of the things, at least, that we know in the Netherlands is that we started out this year with very positive feelings, also in economic sense. We were imagining 1.5, 2% economic growth. Everything was zooming along. We had an unemployment rate which was the lowest in decades. It's all out of the window now. We are in a completely new world, and I think that we are going to experience a very, very steep economic downturn, and we have to prepare for that because it's going to be unprecedented, I think.
Thank you, Louis. Thank you. If somebody wants to add something, it is not necessary. If somebody
So,
has
hello
nothing.
from Brussels. I
Yes,
wanted
hello.
really to compliment what was already said. Next to the school system, what we are observing is that there is a peak increase in the workload for the people that are doing teleworking. I'm engaged in several projects at the moment, and there is no distinguishing anymore between working time and private time. And I wonder what the impact is that going to have in the workforce productivity in the months and the years to come, whether people are going to embrace teleworking or rather shy away from it. And so I'm curious to see the evolution.
Yes, thank you very much. This is interesting topic, interesting aspect. Thank you, Alvaro.
If I may add, I think it's going to be even more critical than that. It's not only about whether people will embrace teleworking. We might be confronted with, let's say, a disparity inside society, where some are able to continue participating in society, in work, in creating new things or doing their
New
job.
values.
And
Yes.
many others will be left out. Many. It's going to be a very strange situation, I think.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you for the warming up is excellent, and we can come back also to some aspects. But now you have the second turn. Each of you will at the end to name top 3 challenges facing the EU after COVID or during COVID. So I give only example that common problems of EU level or member states level or sectors depressed. So if you can name, my dear guests, your 3 top problems you guess EU has to solve in addition to the old problems, but the new problems generated by COVID-19. So please. I name, of course, unemployment for my fear, but what others? I don't want to influence you.
Okay. Well, I think that first of all, the top three challenges. The first one would be, in my opinion at least, is that the current problems the EU is facing will be exacerbated. It will grow. It will be exposed more. And don't be mistaken. We are facing huge problems in the monetary union. The euro environment is going to be challenged in a very big way. But it is only COVID that exposes the problems. The problems were already there. And we know that because when we look back for the past 2 decades, we have seen bigger and smaller problems inside the euro environment, and they were never actually addressed. So that is that's going to be a key topic, and a topic that might result in a complete change of the euro environment, even abolishing the euro. So that is one thing. Another thing is that the interaction within the various areas of Europe, it was slowly becoming, I would say, an accepted practice. But we should be prepared when people start returning and focusing on their comfort zones. People in Western Europe, in Southern Europe, in Eastern Europe, where they try and find very closely around them the sounds and the things that are, let's say, better suited to their cultural backgrounds. The risk of this is that it will decrease the dialogues or even sharpen the dialogues. And now I'm going to give my top three, my third challenge, which is actually not my challenge. It should be yours, Albana. Europe as an association of institutes has never ever been known for its huge participation of the general population. It has always been an environment where a small fraction of the peoples were able to interact and to understand what was going on, and the majority of the peoples had no clue whatsoever. And when we are going to make something out of Europe, and this I think is Albana's point, we should be able to dramatically increase the social networking capabilities within our societies to make sure that the exchanges of ideas, the exchanges of plans mature in such a way that people feel part of the solution rather than part of the problem. This is just my points. I hope it was enough.
Thank you, Louis. Thank you.
Okay.
Next
Shall I?
one, please.
Yeah.
Next.
Okay. Well, I fully subscribe to what
Robert,
yeah.
your camera is shown, so everybody knows who is speaking. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm up there. Okay. Anyway, but so I fully agree with Louis. These are major issues. I think what we've seen, of course, already before COVID, but which is again made stronger with COVID, is the question of solidarity within the EU. I think very few people fully understand or subscribe to the way the solidarity is worked out within the EU. It can only work if it's based on a solidarity principle. So I think this is something that really needs to be addressed at the risk of the union falling apart. Slightly related to that, second point would be the leadership. I mean, we see that Between the US and China, there's a boxing match. The EU is sitting there somewhere in the middle. And I think that what would help to establish the position of Europe, but also to create this solidarity, if real leadership at a global level is shown by the Commission, by the Council, etc. So we really play a role. If we don't do this now, there's going to be a bit of a reshuffle in the global order again. The US is America first, China has his own agenda. So if you look for moral and value leadership, if you look for economic leadership in a way, Europe has to take that role. If you don't do it, I think, again, a lot's going to fall apart, and there is an opportunity now to do so. And I think actually that the new Commission, I'm slightly optimistic, already tried this with the Green Deal and other policy measures. And look at the GDPR, the data policies. Europe, in some areas, is trying to show real leadership and also take risks, because that comes with it. The third part, and I think that's more practical, is I mean, we actually talked about it just before the COVID crisis, which is the digital and technological sovereignty of Europe. The point was made that we're way too dependent on China, but also on the US for lots and lots of our critical technologies. Well, if COVID did anything, it showed very clearly that it's not just the technology, it's just we're totally dependent, even when we want to make protective masks. So there's a huge vulnerability there in our industries. It's not limited to one industry, it's not limited to one technology, it's across. So there we really, really have to work very hard, first of all, understand these vulnerabilities and all the different supply and value chains, and then secondly, of course, to address them. And just by some, if you talk about raw materials, it'd be very difficult because you are dependent on where the raw materials come from. But in a lot of other areas, we can actually do much, much, much better. So those would be my 3 points.
Thank you, Robert. So Roland, please give us some more optimistic perspective, if you can. If not, because
Roland is frozen.
Frozen. So we continue. I think is very good. I think.
I just wanted to add.
Yes.
To add one additional point here, Luis. Thanks for bringing up in your conversation the point of the social engagement.
Yes.
And I think that indeed one of the key issues or problems that Europe will need to face is increasing its social imagination and leadership imagination, the capacity to imagine the future. We are very short-term oriented in whatever we are doing, even if or when we put long-term labels to the agendas. So yes, it's true that with the change crowdsourcing, I make a call and an invitation to just flipping that around and help society and leaders to develop their social imagination, so imagining the future. But next to that, a lot of structures need to be put in place. And Robert mentioned earlier the element of the technology. Tila mentioned earlier the element of employment, and definitely education is one of the third elements that is going to challenge the let's say uptake of on the current situation.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And we have to a little bit speed up and move to the second part, unless there are some questions from the participants. Mario, are there some questions to section 1?
No questions came.
Okay, we have enough time for questions at the second or third part. Okay, so I would like to now discuss and of course present the opinion, ask for the opinion of our guests about the new solution and problems. So sorry, I pushed here some solution when following the people through using Galileo satellites. This is not so, sorry, I close it because this is not the best innovation, following people. So, but I would, I put some headings here. So we need solution to sustain and create job. Do you agree? For sure. Then you mentioned several times home office, working home. So it becomes a new standard. I just had a presentation to my colleagues 2 weeks ago that all the companies at home, even the director goes to home with the secretary, but not in the same house, okay? and so 4 days working, 1 day team building. Sorry, but we have a separate serial of home office system. Involvement of Epsilon Y generation. And the fourth, broadband workplace innovation. This is of course, my dream. I had a seminar in European Parliament 10 years ago. Roland may remember that broadband, we have to start from bottom up, increasing, like Albana also said, the social cohesion, social inclusiveness, starting from workplaces. So bottom up and versus, of course, leadership for top down. Okay, so these are the 4 categories of solution. Can you add more, or can you comment on these categories, my dear guests?
Well,
okay,
I can
yes,
I can add one thing.
yes,
add one thing.
yes,
And what I want to add is the influence of government and government structures.
influence of
The government and the government structures, the way we are
okay.
organizing.
Government and the governance. Okay, I will modify it after the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Louis. Until your ideas is coming, I received 2 hours before a question. Let us read quickly. Very interesting. From Mr. Josef Ondka, Banska Bystrica. This is the middle of Slovakia. So, speaks about millennials, 20 years old, young generation, entering the labor market and society discussion. We know, or we feel they are very good. Technology, everything is good. But as well, he says there are some disadvantages. Even I said not able or willing to take responsibility for the wife and family. They want to feel okay. So I 90% agree to Mr. Ondko, but here are the questions. I read them, and maybe Mr. Ondko, are you here at the meeting? If he is here, then he can comment on it. So the first question, you should read it. Are the millennials prepared for early 21st century complexity? The second, are EU education standards thinking for all life market, what market requires? And the third question is really the right goal to reach 50% of the EU population in university diplomas, higher education, quantity versus quality? And here, second question, I understood this is a skills mismatch. So the questions, if somebody wants, Mr. Ondko, if you want to add, or here I see Ivan, if you want, because I received indirectly from you. There is no addition, so yeah.
Mr. Ondko is here, but his mic is off.
Okay, so anyway, my guests, please tell me your opinion about these questions. Try to answer to Mr. Ondko.
Yeah, can I give it a shot, Attila?
Who is speaking?
Robert.
Hello, Robert, of course. Please,
No, I
please
mean,
go ahead.
I would subscribe to most of the concerns raised. Whether, I mean, the thing is, you know, I think the observations are correct, right? So there's a real difference in appreciation. And I have had it with my own employees and with other people. They expect everything to come to them rather than to work hard. If I then explain that I started at a very low paid stage and had to work bloody hard to reach anything in life, they look at you as if you're idiotic, and that's not today's world. So I
Yes.
think that in a way, whether it's good, whether we went through the hard way, consider it as a good or a bad thing, is part of it. But on the other hand, it's going to be their world. So if that's the way their world is going to work, then that's the way they're. I mean, I'm not sure if they're ready, or if the complexity that we see is also observed by them. Because if they don't see it, they will not be ready. But will it be the same complexity? So that's the thing. The skills mismatches, I think this is a big thing. I mean, it's been mentioned in different ways before. I mentioned in the education side as an example. It was mentioned before, but I think there's a different thing here as well. It's the fact that if you look at continued digital transformation, lots of the jobs. I mean, the ideas differ a little bit. There was a study done in Oxford, which said that about 48% of the current jobs would be changed significantly, if not made obsolete by artificial intelligence and other technologies. The OECD comes with a much lower number, but it doesn't matter. A large part of the jobs, whichever way we look at it, will be replaced or changed. People are frightened for it, right or wrong, but that's the nature of the kind of revolution we're going through and we have to go through. So I think what COVID has done is make very clear that these skills gaps are enormous. It's access to technology, but it's also the use of technology, which is a big issue. So I think, in a way, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It will accelerate hopefully it will accelerate the development towards more efficient, more productive jobs. I mean, otherwise it would have maybe taken 10 years to get there, and now it might take 5 years to get there. But it would have happened anyway, so I don't see it necessarily as a bad thing. The last part, I totally agree. Quantity versus quality. I mean, maybe I'm too much old school, but I think the quality is key. And what you do is you basically lower the barrier to get it, to get your degrees, which then means that people have to do PhDs or even further studies. So I don't see the big gain here either. That's irrespective of the fact that people have to be educated at their maximum level, no matter where they are. But whether this all should be a university is just a degradation of the value of the university diploma. So I hope that is a little bit of an answer.
Thank you, Robert. So,
if I may, I want to add something
please,
to what
please.
Robert said.
Yeah.
With respect to the last part, the education, we all know that it has always been, let's say, a socialistic dream, between brackets, that everybody should become, let's say, a white-collar worker. Yes. Society isn't like that. As a matter of fact, we need blue-collar workers much more than white-collar workers. So here we have been adopting our schooling systems to some kind of fantasy. And when we extrapolate that a little bit, we also see that this fantasy has reached Generation Y. Why am I saying this? Because the young people of this generation, they are doing the things that we have taught them. They are consumers. Why? Because we taught them that the best thing in life is to be a consumer. They have no idea about production. They have no idea about the realities of life. When you ask them something that was normal in our generations, for instance, where does milk come from? They say it grows in a supermarket or something like that. So I strongly think that we will have this ambiguity in society where this generation will probably be forced to face up to reality sooner rather than later. That is one thing. I don't think they will be able to continue a life of consumption in a spoiled way that they have been accustomed to. But you can't blame them. We can only blame ourselves, because we were the ones who set the standards, and we were the ones who said this is what you should crave for. My 5 cents.
Thank you. And now you see, Albana, they don't want or don't know to lead, manage the others. So leadership, lack of leadership in the future.
I would be saying that they love being regarded as leaders of the future. Now, what is lacking between that and where they are now is having some real hands-on practice and making their hands dirty. Or what I was saying is that, you know, our ancestors, so 2,000 years ago, the brain of, for example, males would be mature with 17 years old. Today, it is with 23, 25 years old. And this is basically due to lack of hands-on involvement in physical work. And that's what we are experiencing with our generation. I've got a boy of 22 years old and one of 3.5. So I can tell you that he loves to be a leader, but he's not yet been accustomed of making his hands dirty. And that's our challenge, giving them the possibility to make their hands dirty.
Okay, thank you.
Well, in that case, I just want to comment that it was already mentioned that China is going to have a very big influence on our lives. Maybe we can learn something from China as well, and we could implement something that was known in China as the Cultural Revolution. Take the professors out of the universities, kick them on the land, make them do the harvests. Yeah. Now, it's maybe a little bit rigorous, but it helps.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. In the meantime, I see we are 56, our numbers are growing, and the subject is also vibrating. I like this meeting, but the time is passing. So this subject, has somebody other comment? For example, so is there somebody from young generation in the participants? Nobody? Okay, so we proceed, if no comment, to this part, the new solutions, and the others: broadband, workplace innovation, sustain, create job, home office. So we need solutions for all four. We can agree on this. Am I right? Even you added another need for solutions. Yeah. And there are, I mentioned financial instruments, some more simple grant schemes to restart the economy, the innovation, because the so far grants are too complicated mainly for SMEs. And maybe we should send a company and family loans and so on. And also, I made some comments, but only for inspiration, some subtopics, but this is not important. More important part, subtopic in this numbers 2, impact on all problems. That means impact of COVID, which are called the catalyst for change, so accelerator for the change, which was anyway in the pipeline. So I explain what is the question. So impact on all problem means how and what extent the disruption of the life and business caused by COVID-19 and the new solutions introduced after COVID-19 shall help to solve or deteriorate. So if we can continue in coherent way, take the new problems solution on board, in addition to all problems, and we can proceed, or this will create another complication. So this is my question, dear my guest.
Well, if I can say something, do you hear me? Yeah.
Of course, of
Yeah.
course. And here are the subtopics. My proposal. So
I mean, EU position in the world. I already talked about that. I do think. I mean, you know, a large part of the EU is still agricultural policies, totally outdated. A lot of policies are very, very much say demonstrating the very conservative traditional way of doing policies. So if I have any hope, this will be replaced completely by the new policies. So the Green Deal, the climate deal. Why not use the tool that's already there, the innovation, help companies to not just overcome the crisis, but really come better out of the crisis by accelerating these policies. The same with digital transformation. I mean, we see the weaknesses, we know how to address them. Let's accelerate them and make it better. I mean, innovation can be used, first of all, to get out of the crisis. So the grants, I agree, should be simple, but at the same time, I don't see any problems putting I mean, the patient has to stay alive. So some disaster recovery is needed, because if the companies fall over, there's no point having any policy because there's nobody to apply it to. So that is clear. But then we had a meeting with K4I the other week last week, and what was clearly stated is that innovation can help these companies recover and actually become stronger after the crisis than they were before. So not too much money should just be spent on disaster recovery, but should be spent on innovation to create new jobs, to sustain the jobs that are there, to make those companies much more robust for the future. At the same time, the acceleration of the Green Deal, digital transformation, it's clearer than ever that this is needed, and it can be used and it can be turned to an advantage, and it would also increase the leadership role in Europe in these domains. So I think they're totally linked. The old problems have not gone away, but I think we can use this crisis as a wake-up call to actually really move faster, put the money where we really need it, break down these old paradigms that are leading agricultural and other outdated policies, and actually really move on with it. And the crisis may be the tipping point where we can actually start moving in that direction much stronger than we did before.
Thank you, Robert. Other contributions? So
yes, I would like to add something, Roland, here.
Yes, please, Roland.
So as we speak, and I mentioned it earlier to you, there is at the same time an event which is called Coronavirus Global Response, and basically this is an initiative of the European Commission and the Commission President with the aim to raise money to kickstart the global cooperation on Corona. They started at 3 o'clock. They want to raise 7.5 billion. I follow it. At the moment, they have raised 4.6 billion.
Roland, who are the donators?
Well, this I cannot see at the moment. Maybe I could check, but this is available. Everybody can see it after.
Okay, thank you.
What is surprising, and I think that's the good side of this Corona crisis is that we start thinking together on solutions. We start working together.
Yes,
we
yes.
are getting more aware
Agree.
that we are all living on one planet, that we all share basically lots of the same problems, be it climate, and I mean the bushfires in Australia showed it. We see the problems with biodiversity. We see the problems with food. We see the problems with water, which will become even more important. And we have seen also during these discussions how closely policy and politics are linked with science and a better understanding, and on the other side then the need to provide the solutions to all of these problems. So I think from the perspective of research and innovation, which is my topic or our topic in Knowledge for Innovation, this is a good sign. And we just over the weekend, together with our members of European Parliament, drafted a letter to the Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, urging them that the challenges, as we just discussed, that were already there, but that will even accelerate, need an even bolder response than we have thought before. So we can now think through again the big topics that were forwarded, policy topics that were forwarded in the beginning of this year, which obviously is the Green Deal, which is the digital transformation, and which is the new industrial strategy, in which SMEs will play again a very important role. And this is why we need also not to forget to support the SMEs and get them through the crisis, and then help them get more innovative and competitive. And there, I think we can count on the younger generations. If I look at my children, I think there is a spirit of leadership. There is a spirit of being self-employed, creating own ideas, own companies. So I see both. I mean, that on the one side we are getting lazy, but on the other side there is also there are also many young people that are really eager to do new things and to help solving problems. I mean, for us, Attila, Robert, for our generation, my parents always said, "Oh, great that you are a teacher. You will have a job for the rest of your life." When I left school, I went to Siemens and they said, "Oh, Siemens is great. You will have a job for all your life." But then I left Siemens and they said, "Why do you do that?" So I said, "Well, I start my own business now." And I think it's never too late. I mean, I'm also past 60, and I think we are the ones that have the old experience, but still the drive to do new things. And this is why I'm still so much passionate to drive a dialogue and a cooperation on innovation and on solutions for all of these problems. And from this perspective, I think Corona has hopefully something good. I don't want to discuss about the management of the crisis, which I think was very poor, but I think, or maybe politicians were much more clever than we think, is because they used the fear. I mean, they themselves were afraid. Politicians themselves were afraid, so they needed to do something against their own fear. But then what they did is they spread fear among the population, well, which helped obviously make them stay at home and listen to what the politicians said. But in the end, this experience, if this experience does not trigger change and the search for a real new economy and a new ecology, then nothing will help us, I would say. So thanks, Corona.
Thank you, Roland, for your encouraging.
Mr. Attila, there is also a comment in the chat.
Yes, please. I only finished my sentence. So you made an excellent transition from the old problems to a new governance needed for EU, inclusive EU, because I think management by fear, this is not a governance for a long run. Maybe Albana agrees, but before Albana takes the floor, so let us see the question or listen to the question, please.
Okay. So, Mario, question is raised by Josef Balum, and I will try to ask what he wrote. Latest news from last week was that Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway, sold all airline stocks. This means that the world expects sharp decline of airport transportation. Many others changes we expect in education, culture, sports, management, and politics, and in other areas where grouping more people in one place. But what do you think about changes in globalization, self-sufficiency, and environment?
We can read it in the chat also. And chat remains in the recording. But good question. I heard that many airliners will collapse. So all industries, not all industries. Okay, so please, my guest, go ahead with the answer. So the question was, again, repeat, Mario.
We have read the question, and
okay.
I think there is it's probably going to be a stepped answer. It is unlikely, very unlikely, that in the next 1.5 to 2 years, the international travels will resume the ways we experienced it. It's very unlikely. That doesn't necessarily mean that it will stay deflated, but it may mean that indeed, as you already mentioned, Attila, that a number of airlines will collapse. They will fold, and we will not see them again. Another point is that we will probably see that future aircraft are going to be designed and developed in a different way. But it will take at least 5 or 6 years before they even start flying. And now, so yes, Warren Buffett sold his airline stock. I have always learned that when he does something, follow his example. So when you still have airline stock, get rid of it.
Thank you. Thank you. So we can continue, and now I think we arrived to the peak of solutions. So I give the floor to Albana, how to raise the EU governments. Albana, please take the floor.
I'll take that. Thanks very much, Attila. I wanted maybe to just add something about relating the question on the globalization, the global supply chains. Isn't the case of, isn't COVID raising our awareness on the risk that is linked with the globalization of production and the supply chains? Knowing, for example, that like we knew that COVID was a possible disaster on the horizon, so is a cyber attack. And of course, these highly interconnected world businesses and supply chain are, of course, a very promising background for having yet another disruption. So wouldn't that be a context to be considered and say, oh, well, what if the global airline traffic is going to be reduced, what about the other ways of global traffic? let's put it that way. So it's a good reflection, and who would better know these answers than, I would say, the broad mass of people that might have an interest in one way or another. They might have a stake on the particular questions, and that's what the notion of change crowdsourcing as a way of governance is inviting us to look at. So I came to that idea about 7 years ago, as a matter of fact. This presentation has been prepared as a working material for teams and leaders. So there is a lot of material there that we're not going to cover today, but I will go into some keywords that have to do with a new governance that we might be aspiring for bringing massive social change. So what is change crowdsourcing? So basically what it is a change strategy when the participative leadership leverages on web-based social technologies to deliver profound change results. Why is it important to talk about it now? Because there are multiple disruptors, social, technological, economic, that are too big, too complex, too risky for top-down prescriptive change strategies to work. And for, in addition on that, to address the built-up skepticism year after year on the effectiveness of hierarchical type of leadership. But beyond that, what this strategy addresses is also a gap that we see into the way leadership, society, and technology are working together to deliver progress, social progress. I call that a deficit of social and leadership imagination, knowing that this social leadership imagination is what fuels our imagination of the future. Can you think for a moment, if you've got no aspiration, no deep imagination, or no imagination of your deep desire, how's your life going to be like? How's your day going to be built? How's your month going to be organized? How's your years going to be organized? And I think that because we are very much kind of reprogrammed through the years to focus short-term first and then long-term. Be that you see all the different structures, economical, financial, educational, health caring, there also the label is long-term, but they function very much on a short-termism. And that impoverishes the imagination of the future. And when that is impoverished, then our potential, our skills for building it are impoverished too. But we know that if that is being impoverished, both at the leadership level and the social level, there is basically no point of contact. So we kind of follow like without any navigator. So we go wherever we can, but we don't have any navigator to go in the right direction. And the reality check says that with no engagement, there is no change. So how do we actually want to build up or to reinforce an economy without engagement? I think there is time to make a shift to the imagination of an engagement economy, where the strategic initiatives are fueled from co-created leadership, so that social and leadership imagination, the gamification, so all the web social technologies, which then have to will be transformed into deep social change. We know crowdsourcing already. A lot of organizations use that to create better ideas for their products, for launching the products, and for designing new products. And all the organizations that I put here on that slide, they're pretty successful at it. But these are strategies that have been oriented towards creating more market value. Now, what about using those strategies to go from creating market value to creating social value? So I would say that if we want to find a, let's say, intersection between a competitive-driven or society or an economy and a co-creation driven society that is going to lead to innovation, we need to open up and to find ways to engage the mass of employees or of people into the desired changes. The only way that innovation is going to make sense is only through that way. So our change crowdsourcing, let's say, what are the benefits then? When we talk about engagement in co-creation, the word is big, and basically at the very bottom, its biggest prerequisite is trust, working together on the base of trust. And trust is a notion that is, I say, a slick notion in the sense that it is given, but it's also built. But beyond that, when we engage in co-creation, there are some very immediate benefits that come next to building and creating trust. It's knowledge sharing. More people become aware of new technologies, new ideas, new ways of working, new policies, new procedures, new opportunities. The cloud innovation makes real sense. It's oriented towards social value. There is civic engagement. We're talking earlier about Generation Y. There is desire to get involved in leadership, yet the structures and I would say that an invitation, an open call for engaging that new generation is not yet there. But the crowdsourcing, change crowdsourcing creates that possibility. There is active creativity. So people that are beyond the sharing of those new ideas are basically being creative. They're offering some new ideas, or they're offering ideas from a different perspective that we might not be aware of. There's definitely going to be workplace innovation, problem solving, and community building at a much higher speed that we could have ever thought of. And so basically that's what it is. And I say it is wider outreach of communities, employees, gurus, partners, collaborators, clients, suppliers, because, and on the virtue of the technology, of the social technologies. There is, of course, going to be a faster adoption, simply because when people are involved, they are more prone to adopt. There is one other thing that we're talking earlier about COVID being an opportunity for, I mean, it's a pain, definitely, but it's also an opportunity. And it's such, there is a big saying of Deepak Chopra that says that all great changes are preceded by chaos. And that's what COVID-19 is doing, is disturbing the system. But change crowdsourcing works exactly the same way. It completely disturbs the system. Why? Because it has got this possibility to reach a huge mass of people, of minds, of hearts at the same time. And once it goes, it's like an avalanche. It just would just propagate, will spread in a way that you have to do something about it. So, you know, for those that are involved on kind of let's say structural way of managing change, we always talk about the burning platform. What is a burning platform? Let's go there with the biggest risk that we can think of. And with the change crowdsourcing, the emergence of the burning platform is completely different. That burning platform doesn't exist. It's not a, let's say, COVID-19, all the deaths related with COVID-19 are a pain and are a burning platform in the perspective that we don't want that to be repeated. But having people engaged in a co-creating platform, in change crowdsourcing, creates an emerging burning platform of new ideas that put the society and the leaders into the focal point of needing to make choices and decisions.
Thank you, Albana. Yeah. I have a proposal because some of our guests have to leave, so we could have a discussion after the closure of meeting if there will be question, and you should continue your presentation in depth. Yeah. Or they will watch your TEDx seminar, TEDx presentation. It was very nice.
Yeah. So
okay. So let us thank you very much.
So you are very welcome.
So this is still a question. My question remains: how to this crowdsourcing should be implemented on several levels, up to EU level. So this should be a nice exercise for us. So. Yeah. Let's go to the section 3. Our answer to the question: are we ready for change?
Mr. Attila, can you please share your screen?
Sorry. Yes, thank you. So I will go back and will share my screen very soon. But I have to find it. But I'm still sharing my screen. I don't know. And you cannot find it. Hello? Maybe, Albana, you should stop sharing?
I hope I did.
So, until it's coming, so we divided our question or answer into 3 things. What EU institution, what are guests that EU institution will do, and what we shall do, and then final question and answer. So, still, can you see my screen?
No, we see you.
Yes,
your camera.
No. So no screen sharing. So, so how we can cope with this?
Please try reshare it. So try again, share it.
Yeah.
I can try to take over and you will
Yes, give me yes.
Okay, so now I am sharing my screen and now you should try to take over.
But still I don't see. Meeting continue presenting. You are presenting a black screen.
Yes, so please take over.
But I don't see anything. Sorry, black screen. I cannot. I don't see anything.
If I may interrupt.
Albana, you are no longer presenting. So
hello.
Not.
Attila.
Yes,
if I may interrupt, I have just posted the link to your presentation in the chat. If everybody opens a second window in their browser, paste the link, and then they see the presentation, and you can continue talking, and we can toggle between the 2 screens.
So now you don't still see my presentation, still not? Yes? Hello?
Yes, for me it's visible now.
So it is good. Then it's good. So
Yes.
let's go. So EU institutions, what the answer, the capabilities, I think here are my comments. Readiness of EU institution, probably yes, but the priorities and roadmap is important. You can interrupt me anytime. Capabilities of EU institutions to adopt the change. Again, I repeat, change which must solve the old problems and also the new problems together. So this is a big challenge. So how can adopt the change? Crowdsourcing we have already discussed. To balance solutions we have discussed, and the risk factors. I take the example of Plan A of city mayor of your presentation, Albana. So it seems to be now the Plan A is working at the Commission and the EU institutions. Am I right? Or maybe Louis can have more frank opinion.
Well,
Plan A means, Louis, Plan A, very quickly. You looked at the video.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
So, but first of all, your assumption that the readiness of the European institutions is probably yes. I have no idea. I have no clue whatever made you think that the answer is probably yes. Because in my opinion, the answer is definitely no. They are not ready. They are not ready by a long shot. And why are they not ready? Because you already see that they are reacting in some kind of Pavlov reaction. We have a problem. Give me money, give me money, give me more money.
Yes,
we will solve the problem.
Money doesn't help. Money will not help. This is my
opinion. Money will not help, but the thing is that the institutions are not ready because they are reacting from a, as I said, some kind of Pavlov discussion.
Yes, exactly.
So they have to adopt change. They have to adopt change in reality, the way that our friend Albana has been describing it. The question, though, is we must not delude ourselves. And Albana, I'm going to be a little bit critical of your insights. When you are on Place de Luxembourg in Brussels on a Thursday night, you are surrounded by all the young, beautiful people who have a job in the parliament, and they are all very bright and very sharp, and they have great plans, and they drink a lot of beer, which, by the way, is something I like to do as well. But when you leave Place Lux and you walk 150 meters, you will come at Rue de Trône, and when you cross Rue de Trône, you will enter Matonge, which is an area of Brussels that is a little bit derelict, I would say. When you face the people over there, they are young. Very often they are not beautiful and white, but they are beautiful and black. Maybe they are good educated, or they are not as good educated, but they don't seem to be participating in the parties that are going on Place Lux. So there is a very big social distance between one group of the people and another group of the people, and maybe even a third group of the people. And that makes the interaction in a social network very complicated, because some will speak out, some will adapt, some will participate, but a very, very huge part of the population don't know how, are not interested, and they have completely different real life troubles and problems to consider than the others. So we have to be careful. We have to be very careful.
Thank you, Luis. Thank you. So now the second part, what we will do. So this I focus again, what we shall do, how we shall contribute, everybody of us, to the change. So I open, of course, if may I ask, I open from myself. I start from myself very quickly. So we as a Teledom Online will provide for companies and institutions, for the employees, capability, skills in some digital competencies, language competencies, for companies to build new platforms for new era. So this is our mission and my mission also. And you are welcome to visit our subjects. Of course, we are going to do also to have it, some of them in English. So, and now if I may continue with the members, with my guests, Albana. So how do you contribute or plan to contribute to the change of the EU? This is a very general question, but
so I am, of course, very keen of the whole idea of change crowdsourcing and bringing that closer to the EU attention. And the concern that you raised, Lois, is absolutely fundamental. How do we make those layers or sides of the society care enough? I talked earlier about trust, but caring is basically coming from being able as politicians, as European, to bring into the agenda aspects of policy making in education, in employment, that are of critical importance to different layers of the society. And that's how we'll be able to make those layers of the society really care. So for me, it is, of course, bringing that topic closer to the attention, or this way of managing or introducing social change closer to the European institutions. And of course, I am an executive coach, so working closely with key players is part of my my focus. Yeah.
So giving wings to the chance at any level.
That's right.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And here is your website. So Louis, please tell us, this is your library repository of scientific publications. How will you use it for making the change or helping us in the change with science, results of the science, please?
Well, the first and most important thing is I make it available. Everybody can visit the library. Everybody can search in the library. Everybody can find and download papers in their disciplines, and everything is open, everything is for free, everything is accessible for everybody, always, at any time, at no cost. That is the most important thing. The science is there, and it is there to be used. That is one thing.
Thank you. Yes.
Another thing is that when people start using the science, they must not only use the papers, but they must also realize that they have to implement. And implement means collaboration. It means sharing. It means exchanging. That, I am afraid, is not happening at the level that it should. And again, I'm repeating myself, we are not encouraging the participation of the majority of our peoples. There are big dichotomies in our societies, and we are not solving it. And I'm always asking myself, when the people, the inhabitants of this small French city that we're discussing major plan A or the plan B from the major, and the small city was in 1788. Did they realize that only within a year the major would be kissing Madame Guillotine? We are at a very, very dangerous point in society, at a very dangerous point. And we have to make sure that whatever we find as a solution, that we take everybody on board, because otherwise we are going to face a big problem, I think.
Thank you, Louis, for your how to say it, warning, but collaborative warning. So very quickly, crisis management. I put crisis management and found 10,000 matching results. So we have to learn how to manage crisis, I think.
Read
Am
the
I
papers.
right?
Read
Am
the
I
paper.
right? Papers, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The rich repository. Thank you. So, Roland, until you come in, I show the website of Knowledge for Innovation. Maybe you can tell something else about this, some details, if you are here, because I understood you have to go for a meeting. So, Roland Strauss is, as I mentioned, the CEO of Knowledge for Innovation and organizer of innovation summits in the European Parliament every year. So please visit their websites. Robert Fischer, also mentioned that they have some meetings. Robert, are you still there?
I'm still there.
But maybe you can comment also K4I, because you are a president of K4I.
Yes. I mean, well, within K4I, of course, we try to bring the innovation agenda to the front of European policies. We don't think that innovation policy per se is a standalone thing. It should be included into a wide variety of other policies, be they industrial policies, R&I policies, obviously, but also in education and skilling, innovation should be pervasive. So what we've done this week, or last Friday, it's the type of thing that we can do. Wrote a very serious letter to Ursula von der Leyen, stressing to her, signed by the members of parliament from K4I, to really put innovation central in the entire recovery plan.
Is it on the website? This letter
it will be. It will be. It's going to be. There's going to be a press release, and it's going to be made known. We see basically three roles for innovation. One I mentioned before. It's the using innovation to make company recoveries. So rather than just supporting them to keep their employees, help them to innovate so they're more robust for the future. So part of the recovery itself, to accelerate the agendas on greening the society and digital transformation. And the third part, it was mentioned before, to embed it really in the industrial strategy, specifically focusing on the weaknesses that we've seen now, the supply chains, the vulnerabilities in being too dependent on other parts of the world. That was mentioned as globalization. So to really focus that. So and in short, to make innovation central to their entire recovery approach. I know, I mean, you're absolutely right. The first reaction is money. We need money. Still, I mean, we have to bring it up because there's a big risk that they'll take away money rather than add money to the research and innovation budgets to pay for the recovery. So we've argued that to pay for the recovery, rather than take away money, you should earmark a portion of the money you give to activities dedicated to the recovery plan. I want to make one comment to also to Albana's very interesting proposition. Sadly, what we see now is that the Commission, for instance, is not crowdsourcing at all. It's totally inward looking. You can't get any information out of them. They're just running around in circles around themselves, talking to each other rather than talking to the outside world. So I don't know, Albana, if you have good ideas to break it open, I think it would be very helpful.
Yeah.
Thank
we can
you.
talk about that.
Here we agree.
Yes, definitely.
Very good wrap up, Robert. I like it. Yes.
Attila, I could maybe add
yes.
what we do following this letter. So the letter was obviously the first step to raise awareness about our work, about the importance of research and innovation. But now we are planning in the coming month, we are planning events as we have always been doing. And we are planning a series of events on the role of research and innovation in the recovery plan and in the follow-up. So in relation to Horizon Europe, to the partnerships, the missions, because the missions will certainly now move on a bit further. As Robert already said, the green transition will be a topic, the digital transformation, but we will also look into SMEs, also into startups, also into the next wave of breakthrough technologies. I mean, as we all know, the big platforms are in the US. So will the EU be able to lead in some emerging technology areas such as artificial intelligence or blockchain or quantum computing or even in the biotechnology area? So these are the topics that we will address in debates with our members, with the European Parliament in the next coming month. And we hope that we will be able to, again, organize physical meetings in the European Parliament in the second half of the year, and hopefully at the end of the year, then the European Innovation Summit.
Thank you, Roland. So as I see, the K4I is pushing ahead the change on the level of European Parliament and also on the Commission. So good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, and the participants of the meeting, what they will do, how they will contribute to the change after COVID, change of EU. If this is a very conceptual question, but if somebody has an idea, please go ahead now.
Okay, may I get my 2 minutes?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Your name, please.
Peter.
Okay.
I guess the main learning from COVID-19 is the gap in the education. Our system is absolutely not ready for online and digital education, and it has been shown. And I'm coming back to 1984, where the TED was established, and it has to override or overbridge the gaps in the education and bring the new topics to the public. And then later on, TEDx has born and has spreading the good ideas. But this is big global things. I guess there is a chance to Teledom to create Teledom X as a center for regional, local education in the topic, which are not good covered by the school system. And it might be a very good challenge for us in Košice to be a center of such educational seasons, meetings on digital and also on-site way.
Okay. So, final questions, please. Thank you, Peter.
I agree, Peter. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? If not, then let us make the summary. So, I have the pleasure to make a summary. I have this pleasure to make a summary from our meeting. First of all, the outcome of our meeting. So I would summarize as after this meeting, we are closer to exit the tunnel, call it COVID-19, or at least we see where the exit is. And of course, I thank you very much for our distinguished guests for their time and valuable contribution to our meeting. And let us think and work together on development of ideas presented in this meeting. And last but not least, my thanks to my Teledom online program team, the technical and the help desk colleagues. And the record will be available today evening. So this is the outcome. And for the follow-up, I would like to recommend the following activities. First of all, Let us continue to share our ideas on LinkedIn. I have created a so-called clever social network, which is the upgrade of current social networks, the knowledge upgrade of these networks. Here is the LinkedIn address, and also we will be glad if you follow us on the Teledom Online. And I have a strange idea just during the weekend. So why we don't organize COVID-19 country-specific meetings? Of course, moderators are wanted. And next on Teledom Online, what shall we do? What shall be after the COVID meeting will be held next Monday at 11 May from 15 o'clock, and the subject will be very interesting. Municipalities online. So how citizens and governors of municipalities will share or can share knowledge, not only information, online. So we are looking forward to meet you again. Thank you. Mario, please stop recording.